Hey yo, this is Dash, and today I'm going to be doing a video talking about how I sent some food. Well, actually, I got some food, some brisket, some ribs, taken and put together for my favorite aunt. You guys remember my favorite aunt, right? This is my favorite aunt from Pittsburgh. All right. This is the one that I sent the food to.
He got it. He got it.
She asked me for help, or she asked me what she needed. I said, no, I got it taken care of. She's my favorite aunt for a reason. For a reason. I know that footage says lost footage, and actually it wasn't lost. I started making a video way back when, and I never actually did anything with that footage, but that little bit of footage is what I have left. So let's get into the video. Hey yo, this is Dash. Get ready. So this video is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to be doing kind of a talking head thing. Don't know if you've heard about it, but there's these things called cicadas. That are all around in my area, and they're keeping up a whole bunch of noise. They're leaving carcasses everywhere. And last but not least, they're like hanging out on all types of different surfaces. So with that being said, this is going to be a talking head video, and I'm going to do a little bit of time lapse with a little bit of live action, and we're going to see how this goes over. If you like this type of video, please feel free to let me know in the comments below, and maybe I'll do something like it again. My aunt hit me up and she says, hey, I need some brisket and I need some ribs. And I told her, well, the way the cost of meat is right now, I don't know if you really want to do that. And she said, yes, indeed I do. I need some brisket, I need some ribs. Okay, not a problem. So I went out and got the brisket and the ribs for her. First thing I did was I got the brisket taken care of. Now, as you saw, I washed the sink out, I rinsed the brisket off, I get the brisket trimmed, and I cut the fat off of the decal and underneath the brisket, and then I trim the brisket rather aggressively. I know, The way I trim brisket, the way I do my brisket is not for everybody. That's how I do my brisket. The next thing I did was I had some ribs. I had to get my ribs taken care of. And as you saw, I washed out the sink between the brisket and the ribs, got the ribs rinsed off, pulled the skin, and then one of the last things you saw there, I actually took the odd rack, that third rack of ribs, I cut it in half, put it in a plastic bag. I will be cooking that rack of ribs for my family later in the week. Next thing I had to do was get the smoker started. So I'm using Vicky the vertical smoker today. Got it all cleaned out, got the fire lit, got water added to the smoker. Next thing I had to do was just kind of be patient and wait for the smoker to come up to temperature and to let all that dirty, thick, nasty smoke burn off. So now that the smoke is burned off, I can go ahead and get the smoker loaded. I always put pork at the bottom of the smoker and anything other than pork, brisket, or chicken, or beef or chicken above any pork products. So that's what I did. Next thing I did a few hours later is I'm going to come back and I'm going to get the brisket and the ribs wrapped up. Now, the brisket, you guys see, I never put anything into or with my brisket. I just put the brisket into the pan, get it covered tightly with foil, and that's it. My ribs, I've started doing something recently with ribs, and as of late, and that has been using foil and turning the ribs upside down so that the meat side is down and the meat side bastes in its own juices. I've been really digging the results on turning the ribs upside down and basting them that way. When I have more than just 2 or 3 racks of ribs, I probably will do it the other way, which is just putting the ribs into pans. But when I have just a few racks, 1 to 3 racks of ribs, I will probably continue to turn the ribs upside down and put the rib meat down so that it bastes in the juices as it's cooking. After I finish wrapping everything up, the next step is to get everything brought in the house and put in the oven. Some of you guys might object to me using the oven, but the reason I use the oven is, one, it cuts down my trips from my house to the garage checking on the food in the smoker, and two, it also allows me to bring the heat up, the temperature up, and provide a constant heat, which will in turn speed up my cook. Now, once everything has been in the oven for a while, the ribs are the first thing done. I went ahead and got the ribs taken out of the oven, and I got them flipped over so they could rest. And then not too long after, because it was a pretty small brisket, the brisket was done, and I got that pulled out of the oven and also set aside so it could rest. Now I'm going to let the ribs and the brisket rest for about an hour or so. It doesn't need to rest for very long. I still want to be able to cut up the brisket and the ribs while it's still warm and pliable so that I can get it put away into vacuum seal bags. Speaking of which, the next thing I did was I got the ribs cut up into half racks and got them put into the vacuum seal bags and vacuum seal them. Then the next thing that I did was I went ahead and got my brisket taken care of. Once I finished taking care of the ribs, I went ahead and got my brisket sliced up. Once I finished slicing up the brisket, I went ahead and got it put into vacuum seal bags. Now the order was for 5 pounds of brisket and 2 racks of ribs. I didn't actually weigh the brisket out or the ribs because the ribs were a unit thing. But the brisket, I started with an 11 and a half pound brisket. And from experience, I know that by the time I take a 11 pound brisket, I'm gonna yield about half the weight after it's cooked. So I know that that brisket probably weighed, 5 to 5.5 pounds once it was done. And I got it all bagged up and I got sent, well, I didn't get it sent. I put it into the freezer so that it could be transported to my aunt. One of my cousins, well, my aunt's son, or one of my aunt's sons is gonna be meeting me today, and I'm gonna be giving the food to him because of the current climate with the Postal Service. And actually, you guys remember the last time I sent food, I had a bit of a problem. I sent food to my aunt almost a year ago, and it took longer than anticipated. So because of the fact that the Postal Service is having problems, it was easier for me to get it on a, going to her because my cousin is going to visit his mom. So guess what? Makes it easier for me, and it's a win-win for everyone. I don't have to worry about the Postal Service taking forever. I don't have to worry about it getting lost in the mail. And obviously, I don't have to worry about any delays because it's perishable, nor, and here's the last thing, nor do I have to worry about paying for it to be sent overnight, which is probably gonna cost as much as the food costs to get it shipped overnight. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I know it was a bit different. I know it was a whole bunch of me talking, but guess what? This whole process actually got the food into the smoker about 5 p.m. and it was done about 11:30-ish. So it didn't take too long because of the fact that that brisket was smaller, and when I brought it into the house and put it into the oven, I kicked the heat up. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that thumbs up and leave any comments or questions that you may have down below.
More butter, baby.